Hi everyone, Adam from RethinkX here. Leaders in government and industry are trying desperately to reassure the public and themselves that AI and robots won't upset the status quo.
AI, I really believe, will facilitate and make people more productive. It is not going to replace human beings. It will never replace human beings.
But no matter how hard we wish for something, it won't make it true. The painful truth is that AI and robots will take our jobs. Now, at the same time, the rise of AI and robots itself will create new jobs, but AI and robots will take those jobs too. By 2045, there will be virtually nothing a human can do that a machine can't do better for a tiny fraction of the cost. A robot that has a lifetime cost of $10,000, works 22 hours a day, and lasts 5 years would have an hourly marginal cost of just 25 cents. And when robots are building all the robots, well, they're going to cost a lot less than $10,000. The marginal cost of labor will plummet towards zero as adoption of humanoid robots powered by increasingly capable AI explodes across virtually every industry worldwide. Humans simply will not be able to compete. Okay, so let's quickly dispel some myths that run adjacent to this painful truth. Myth: we are still many years or decades away from AI advanced enough to replace most human labor. Well, it is true that today's AI, is not intelligent enough to disrupt all human labor. The last 3 years of spectacular advancement following that ChatGPT moment in November 2022 should leave no room for doubt that we're not talking about science fiction that lies decades or centuries away. Machines that can think are here, and their capabilities are expanding day by day with no real end in sight. Okay, myth: there are uniquely human jobs that no machine will ever do. Well, we tend to seriously underestimate both how capable robots will become and how often people will actually prefer a robot to a human. We're already seeing some counterintuitive examples, such as a large fraction of patients preferring to speak to AI therapists rather than human ones. Even if jobs persist, for which the primary qualification is being human, there won't be anywhere near enough of those to perpetuate the global labor market as we know it today. Myth: humans and robots working together will be more effective than robots alone. There was a brief period when the best chess players were top grandmasters who were being assisted by insights from chess programs. But that did not last. IBM's Deep Blue computer beat Garry Kasparov, the world champion at that time, in 1997. By 2015, the chess program Stockfish could defeat the strongest human-computer partnerships 100% of the time. From that point onwards, in other words, humans only got in the way. Human-robot partnerships for performing labor will follow exactly that same pattern. Now, ironically, chess is now a booming sport, but we never had tens of millions of people earning a living playing chess. So the analogy won't hold. Even if robot-human combos are more productive than robots alone for a few years at the beginning of the labor disruption, just as it was the case for chess programs, that should not offer us any reassurance about the long-term job security for humans. Myth: making AI data centers and robots is expensive and slow, so that will give us plenty of time to adapt. Well, incumbent industries always underestimate the exponential first phase of a new technology's adoption S-curve. Horse and buggy manufacturers doubted automobile adoption would be swift. And because In the first few years, there were no car factories, there were no auto mechanics, there were no fuel stations, there were no paved roads or traffic lights. The cars themselves were expensive and unreliable, and nobody even knew how to drive. The 19th century heating and lighting industries had the same doubts about electricity. Kodak had the same sort of doubts about digital cameras. And until very recently, the fossil fuel industry had the same doubts about clean energy and electric vehicles. But disruptions don't take 50 or 100 years. History shows us unequivocally that they take 15 to 20 years, and sometimes even faster if demand for the high-value new product or service is large. And in the case of humanoid robots, demand is likely to be enormous, somewhere between cars and smartphones, tens to hundreds of millions of units annually at a minimum. Myth. Even if the machines do take our jobs, well, it will happen slowly over many decades, giving us plenty of time to adjust. Horses didn't lose their jobs to cars slowly over many decades. In most regions, the disruption of horses was complete within 15 years of the introduction of the automobile. And those horses didn't end up finding other jobs. They ended up as dog food. Holding out hope that the 4 million Americans who make a living as a driver today, who are going to be put out of work by autonomous trucks and robotaxis, for example, will somehow make a clean and easy pivot into new occupations like software engineer and social media influencer with just a little bit of retraining is dangerously delusional. Okay, with those myths out of the way, what does the roadmap look like for the disruption of human labor by AI and robotics? And how do we navigate from a current system to a future of superabundance with minimum chaos, collateral damage, and casualties along the way? Well, we at RethinkX don't have all the answers. Nobody does. We're working on it, but for now, we can help frame the discussion within realistic boundaries. To start, it's important to understand that there will be a brief period when AI and robotics appear deceptively non-competitive with human labor, for two reasons. The first is that there is enormous latent demand for labor throughout the global economy. Labor that's too dirty, dangerous, demeaning, or low-paying for humans to do. And second, AI and robots will indeed briefly act as productivity enhancers for people. Now, those two things are great, but they won't last. Within a few short years, all of that latent demand will be saturated, and meanwhile, AI will rapidly be following the chess program trajectory, so that AI and robots become so capable that humans will just get in the way. Now, nevertheless, we will have a fleeting grace period, and that will allow us to prepare a soft landing, meaning a stable and just transformation across society in response to the disruption of labor. But it's absolutely critical that we not become complacent here. We must recognize this grace period for what it is, a very brief and lucky opportunity to plan ahead for the tsunami of technological unemployment that is inexorably approaching. Now, this is why it's so important to face this painful truth and not fall for the "there's nothing to worry about" line. That line is now being shouted from the rooftops across Washington, D.C. and Silicon Valley and elsewhere. But the painful truth is, the robots are coming. They're coming for everyone's jobs. That train has already left the station, and we're all on board. Nothing can stop the disruption of labor now. Without honest and thoughtful decision-making among leadership in every domain, and very likely a complete rethinking of the basic social contract across society itself, the destabilization caused by the disruption of labor could well be catastrophic. We have to keep our eye on the real prize here. The end of human labor. That has the potential to be fantastically liberating. It could quite literally be the best thing to ever happen to humanity. Societies that choose wisely today could start looking like something out of utopian science fiction by the 2040s. But only if we face the painful truth about what's coming. AI and robots will take our jobs. And it will be, eventually, the most amazing thing to ever happen to our civilization, because it will mean we can all retire in luxury to spend our time, including working, on whatever we find meaningful. But the journey from here to there will be a lot less bumpy if we're honest and start planning for it immediately, instead of wasting the next decade burying our heads in the sand and pretending that the future isn't coming.